Hello listeners everywhere. Welcome to the Archive of Audio Antiquities, a voyage into the vaults of wonders on the wireless. In a moment, Simon Exton and Ken Moss will be here to speak to you.
Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Archive of Audio Antiquities. I'm Ken Moss.
I'm Simon Exton.
Thank you for joining us once again for our voyage into the vaults. This time we are listening to the Big Finish Doctor Who adventure, Spare Parts. This was released in 2002, a four-part story starring Peter Davison as the Doctor, Sarah Sutton as Nyssa, with Paul Copley, Sally Knivett and Darren Nesbitt. The synopsis runs: on a dark frozen planet where no planet should be, in a doomed city with a sky of stone, the last denizens of Earth's long-lost twin will pay any price to survive, even if the laser scalpels cost them their love and hate and humanity. And in the mat-infested streets around tea time, the Doctor and Nyssa unearth a black market in second-hand body parts and run the gauntlet of augmented police and their augmented horses. And just between the tram stop and the picture house, their worst suspicions are confirmed. The Cybermen have only just begun, and the Doctor will be, as he has always been, their saviour.
It's taken 6 years training, but the sky's the limit today as mankind sets out on its mission to see the stars.
This area is restricted to civilians.
Why? What aren't we supposed to see?
I saw your friend. Seemed like an amiable chap.
The Doctor?
At Dodds.
What were you doing there?
What's happening?
Oh, power cut. Just when I got the lights on.
Sounds like your society's in its death throes. Not the end of the world. You could be right. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe Mondas doesn't have a future after all.
Emergency generators! Get the backup generators running!
Keep moving.
It's too dark to see! No one leaves! No one!
Dr. Van Allen, you are relieved of your duties.
How dare you, Zhang! All this is my work! I created you!
And I am superior to you. Be proud while you still have the capacity.
That travesty that was once a human being is part of me. I don't know how long it'll take. I'm not even sure I want to stop it. But I can give you a wake-up call. It's up to you, not me, to change things and stop this horror once and for all.
Clear these streets. Return to your homes. There is nothing to see.
We both enjoyed this, didn't we?
That's all right.
That's a spoiler coming up. We'll get that bit out of the way. This is not going to be one of those, well, it was all right, and here are the pros and cons. There are virtually no cons for this.
Well, you say that.
Go on, give us your opinion, Dr. Exton, because you're generally, for stuff like this, a little bit more balanced than I am.
Bloody good. It's not to say that there are no things that, in retrospect, couldn't be handled better, but in general, it is very, very good. Across the board, strong performances. I couldn't point to anybody who didn't put in a really good performance.
No, I mean, we've got Paul Copley as Dad. Paul Copley is the same voice in everything he does. And it's a very comforting Yorkshire voice. And the whole family's played as Yorkshire, and it's all very Northern Terrace streets. Even though they're supposed to live in an apartment, it was all very Coronation Street, the whole living setup, everyone living on beetroots and turnips and being all very northern about it. The setting's it's quite London, actually, the actual cityscape. And it's so vividly written. This is written by Mark Platt, and he does a wonderful job with the dialogue and the setup. And considering this is supposed to be a sort of a genesis of the Cybermen story, you still don't actually see the very beginnings of the Cybermen. They're already sort of, mind having said that, I say that, but when the Daleks first appeared, they were pretty much formed. So yeah, that's a bit unfair. But it does show
even in Genesis of the Daleks.
Formed with the very first appearance on screen. So yeah, that's very unfair. Ignore that. But it does show the progress and the surprising twist of progress as to how the Cybermen evolved from first beginnings into what they finally went out into the stars as and appeared as in 10th Planet, which this is effectively a sequel stroke prequel to.
Yes, and there is, as you would expect from this kind of plot, there is some really grim stuff in here. Sally Knivett
Nurse, patient 6-7.
Yes, Dr. Allen.
His pulmonary unit's rejecting. Switch to auto backup before his logic walls go down. And give him a shot of morphine. Hold him! Well, hurry! He'll drown in his own plasma. Oh, give me that.
Sorry, Doctor.
Oh, just clear it away. I need a drink.
Her performance is brilliant. Her character, I quite like the way she goes off the rails at the end.
Into an aniseed wine bottle. You can keep that.
I don't know. All you got available. No, it was more the conflict between doing what she needs to do, what her vocation is as a doctor, and what she needs to do to be able to make the workers capable of saving the planet on the surface. And the intellectual excitement that she gets when she scans the doctor and finds the solution to her problem without taking that further step to what does this go on to mean in terms of future development of the thing that I'm developing. It's a pure intellectual scientific excitement. And I know so many people when I worked as a scientist who wouldn't have thought in terms of what their discoveries were actually going to be used for.
Yeah, because she does, even though she's cast aside and basically spends the end of the story pissed, Dr. Allen, she is wildly excited by the fact that it's her development and her discovery that has made the Cybermen what they are.
And when she has a solution to it, and she's trying to stick to the middle ground as much as she can, and also divorcing herself from all of the ethical responsibilities by saying, the committee must lead us, the committee must lead us, it's 20 of our most brilliant minds, they must make the decision, which is her backing away from making any decisions herself.
Yeah, I'd not looked at it like that before, but yeah, I suppose so.
Because all the way through, she doesn't make any particularly ethically challenging decisions or make any stand at all. She's doing her job, doing her job, doing her job, doing her job. Oh, I've been replaced. Get pissed and stand in a line and have a bit of a mental breakdown.
She does argue the toss about neutering the whole population, though, and converting everybody. And she does...
Yeah, that's a drunken rant right at the end. When it becomes obvious that nothing that she's going to do is going to make a blind bit of difference to anything.
Partly, but she has another bit, doesn't she, where she's demanding that the people of the city are put above the committee when it comes to turning the power back on. So she's not wholly without scruples. It's just, I think it's just, the whole thing is quite desperate. As the story progresses, it just, the whole scenario for all of the people of Mondas, and specifically, they all seem to be confined into one city. It just seems to get more and more desperate and cold, and there's just no relenting to this at all. It just gets worse and worse.
And I think she's brilliantly written and portrayed as a scientist who literally got the weight of the world on her shoulders and doesn't really see what's the next stage beyond what she's developing until it's too late. And perhaps she just isn't acknowledging that because, I mean, she's already spiralling down into the wine bottle when we first see her right at the beginning of the story.
Oh, yeah, I think she spends one night just watching surveillance cameras, an entire night on the source, and then the morning after comes, she's still at it. System Constant walks in, and she's like, morning, sister, fancy a glass of wine? No sleep, up all night drinking, watching security cameras, and, right, well, let's get to work then. Pissed.
I couldn't hear the name System Constant without thinking Lady Constance.
Well, that's just ruined that. Thank you very much. Also within this, we've got Darren Nesbitt as...
somebody superfluous. This is the only issue I have with the plot. He's irrelevant.
He is irrelevant. He's trying to show an alternative to what they're doing up at the palace, which is replacing body parts with artificial manufactured parts and spacesuits, basically creating the Cybermen, with what he does, which is running a body parts shop for somebody who's got a diggy ticker or, you know, needs an arm replacing or something, where he actually bolts on new spare parts that have been harvested from various cadavers.
Yeah, I realise that, and I realise that there's designed to be the contrast between the
organic and the manufactured.
Yeah, but that plot isn't given enough room to breathe with that. So either it needed to be more front and centre as a plot, or it needed to not be there. Because without that character, there is enough plot with the cyberization process and what's going on in the city and the family that Nyssa befriends. All of that has enough legs to fill the storyline.
True, but with any Doctor Who story, I've always said this, you really need at least 3 plot strands going. And some of the flattest Doctor Who audios have either been, unfortunately, 1 plot strand or 2 at best. And they've always been dull and unmemorable. So even if you look at modern Doctor Who, and it's unfortunate that I'm going to compare this to a Chris Chibnall episode, the Saranga Conundrum. There's nothing really apart from Monster of the Week chewing up bits of spaceship. They've got to contrive a second plot strand to give that story depth. And it's all centred around some man giving birth, just to give 2 of the characters something to do. Totally superfluous, doesn't advance the plot, just a bit of wokery, really. Oh, look, we've got a male companion that's about to give birth. It's fuck all to do with the story. It's not very interesting. You don't care about the characters. It doesn't do anything. I mean, that's different because you don't care about the characters.
But I think that's down to writing. Because
no, entirely. Because
if you think about Midnight, there is only 1 plot strand.
That is true.
It's brilliant.
But you do, within that 1 plot strand, you get all the characters' backstories. And you find out who they are. Now, that sort of closed environment for a story, I don't mind. Because it's why Agatha Christie works so well. Because you find out who all those individual characters are. And it's always in a country house or something. It's always in one setting.
But there are enough characters in this for Darren Nesbitt's character to not be there and for it still to stand up.
Oh, yeah. But there's 2 reasons for that. One is the writing. Mark Platt, brilliant. He just understands Doctor Who. And 2, Darren Nesbitt's performance.
Yeah.
He's got a wonderfully rich voice. I've never fully appreciated before, haven't I? It's been a long time since I've listened to Spare Parts. But it's that sort of voice and performance you actually want to listen to, even if it's not that gripping a part.
And he was one of the mainstays of young thug villain in the ITC stuff from the 1960s and did it very well, and obviously was Tigana in Marco Polo. And was, I can't remember the name of the character, but was in Victim.
Oh, you see, I've not seen him in anything. I'd like to say I've not seen him in anything other than Marco Polo, but
You've got Victim, haven't you?
I've got Victim, I've not watched it yet. Don't assume because it's in my library I've actually watched the thing.
No, but I did assume when I said watch this ahead of doing this recording, you might watch it.
Time, dear boy, time.
Here, that's private. You come out of there.
Oh, really, Thomas? I thought you'd have better storage facilities.
They're all vacuum packed for freshness. The real perishables are in the cold store. Full range of bodily organs, limbs, all sizes and colours.
Creeds. Mothers frighten their children to sleep with tales of people like you.
It's business. Trouble is, demands on the slide. People. I mean, even people with terminal injuries. Blood running across the floor. All they want is titanium and plastic. They think it'll last.
It's durable.
I think it's just plain ugly. Some have got so much it drives them crazy. So they have their emotions surgically removed too. We all want immortality, don't we? But with a chrome finish.
This cold store needs defrosting.
Of course, what I need is fresh supplies, and then you came along.
Now, just a minute.
Oh, that's just too good to waste. Sorry, Doctor. I just froze your assets.
I'd not looked at it in that way before. And I think the, not problem so much as reality for me is that if something's entertaining, I sort of edit out that it's not really advancing the plot. Let's take the mad old woman from Quatermass. It doesn't advance the plot one bit, but it's fucking wonderful.
Yeah, but that was a 2-minute scene rather than your third lead.
Oh, no, that's fair enough. I can understand, sort of a third plot strand. I can understand that. But we've seen plenty of stuff where there is a superfluous plot strand. It's just there to fill time. And if it's done well...
in Doctor Who, it's usually there to...
do something with a character.
Give one of the companions something to do, and particularly in the crowded TARDIS years.
Oh, Turlo just used to get bunged in a dungeon whenever they were... In 5 Doctors, he never leaves the TARDIS. Does he even leave in the
he
tomb?
Does. He leaves in the tomb.
Yeah. But beyond that, he's just stuck in the TARDIS the whole time because...
Apart from when he's outside sketching.
That's preamble. Doesn't count. But yeah, how many Doctor Who's have we seen where there's been a superfluous plot strand? I've got to admit...
It's usually there to give a companion something to do.
Yes. It's
not to give the Doctor something to do.
That is true.
If it was Nissa off dealing with an entirely separate plot strand about spare parts and organ harvesting and all of that, yeah, fair enough. But it wasn't. It was the Doctor, and whatever plot strand involves the Doctor needs to be one of the major plot strands of the story.
Yeah, it's fair, is that?
Or make a conscious decision that your Doctor isn't there.
Again, it's a credit to the writing. It does engineer a backdoor way of him getting into the palace to meet Doctorman Allen. His name originally wasn't Thomas Dodd. It was Albert Ferris, and he was supposed to be Grinderman, which means something quite different to you, I'm sure. Grinderman Ferris, because there's all sorts of sort of men.
Yeah, Sisterman and Doctorman
and Electryman and Science Men. And I quite like that Grinderman, though. It's just a pity that it's got connotations elsewhere, for those who know.
Is there anybody who doesn't know? No, it may not be on Grindr, but with Tinder and everything, is
yeah, because there's any number of variations that you could have of that. Anyway, the standout for me, I love the sound design of this story, apart from the only thing that technically lets it down for me is when they're outside. It still sounds very inside. Now, I know it's all supposed to be in a dome, in a sort of stone cavern, the whole city, but it still sounds very indoors. And considering Alistair Locke is the sound designer on this, and he was, I've got to admit, his period of Doctor Who audios, everybody sounded like where they were supposed to be. If they were supposed to be inside, they sounded inside. If they were supposed to be outside, they sounded outside. And ever since he either left, was nudged out, whatever, they've all sounded a bit boothy. The outside shots don't sound very outside. That's it. Because the one standout for me that I think is just a joy to listen to is the Cyber Committee.
The speed of natural development is insufficient. We have taken charge of our own evolution.
Excellent! Abolish doctors! Someone call a mechanic!
Is he is that right? Why is he here? Is he the solution?
You've no unity, and logic alone can never change Mondas's course. The nebula will destroy you. You're finished.
You entered our world. You have the means to evacuate our people. Assist us.
I will not be a part of your future. What's this? What are you doing?
You cannot resist. You will be like us.
I will never be like you.
It's just a lovely voice, and then it all comes together at the end where all the committee come into sync and become one voice to become the cyber planner. You conjure up this massive 20-headed machine thing that all comes together and becomes the cyber planner, and all the beginnings are there. It's just great. And the Doctor defeats it by getting it pissed. What's not to love?
Stop the processing now. You're destroying yourselves.
He has served his purpose. Dispose of him.
Your faculties are slipping.
We must survive.
We will survive.
Fat chance. You were doomed the moment Mondas went out of its orbit.
Mondas. When Mondas's orbit lost stability, our science men discovered an opposing twin world, hidden until then behind our sun.
That's the wine talking. Meanwhile, your world's going under.
I really struggle to find anything bad to say about this.
I know you've tried very hard to be objective, and it's difficult when something is
bloody
this.
Brilliant.
It's marvellous. It's one of the very best things that Big Finish have ever done. I still look at that first band of 50 releases, and pretty much I think all of my absolute favourites are within that first 50. I'm sure there is lots and lots and lots of good Big Finish that I've never heard.
Certainly lots and lots and lots of Big Finish.
There is, that is true. But in those days, 4 episodes a month gave you a real chance to savour and appreciate and, in many cases, re-listen to the stuff that was coming out. These days, it's just hurled out, release after release, month after month. Dozens of episodes of stuff every month that you can't possibly keep up with and savour. It's just got to be, right, I've listened to that one, right, what's next? I've listened to that one, oh, that's quite good, yeah, right, what's next, what's next, what's next? There's no time to breathe. And in these days, it was still, you can savour this. I used to listen to these releases 1 episode a week. It was my Monday night treat to myself as a cushion for the rest of the bloody week. I'd get home, I'd go to Chinese, and I'd listen to half an hour of Doctor Who and discipline myself not to listen to the next episode until the week after. It was bloody marvellous. I really savoured them in those days. I don't anymore.
Yeah. I've said for years that if Big Finish were limited to 2 Doctor Who releases a month, they would be brilliant. Because
I agree.
They would really take care and consider and think about what they're releasing rather than just, oh, we can get hold of the third extra from the left in the Mutant, so therefore we'll build a box set around them.
I'm waiting for Pigbin, an entire spin-off around Pigbin Josh.
Well, you know what Joe Ford says? If you say a Big Finish spin-off 3 times, it will appear.
Pigbin Josh and the Bicycle of Death. Pigbin Josh and the Pond of Doom. Big Finish, it's all yours. Take it away, lads. The one thing that I've always found odd about this, and this is after the fact, a good few years after the fact, is that The Rise of the Cybermen, the 2-part David Tennant story, was based on this, to the point where Mark Platt actually gets a credit at the end of it.
Yeah. But Dalek was supposed to be based on Jubilee, wasn't it?
The Dalek Jubilee thing, I can see the similarities to. It's very, very thin. Much as I love it, I think that the whole human nature thing, being a direct translation of a 7th Doctor novel, it doesn't sit entirely well because you've sort of sold the same story twice with 2 Doctors.
And like Sharda.
Oh, good grief. Sharda's an entire episode in itself. I just prefer to put Sharda in a sort of timey-wimey bubble. I think it's the easiest way of dealing with Sharda, because I love Sharda to bits, but that's a tangle fucking mess.
I mean, at some point there's going to be a version of Sharda with every Doctor.
Yeah, we haven't done it with William Hartnell yet. Can you imagine when the technology exists to recreate voices? But yeah, I've never quite, although I can see the strains of Jubilee in Dalek, I can't see any connection whatsoever between Spare Parts and Rise of the Cybermen. It's a vague genesis of the Cybermen, but the 2 stories are completely unconnected.
Yeah.
I mean, with Dalek, you've got the Doctor turning up and being surprised to find the last Dalek caged, being tortured, being sort of subjected. They think they've got the power over this thing, that they want to find out all its secrets to gain more power and knowledge. And then, even though this lone Dalek is completely trapped, it still finds a way out and turns the situation to its advantage. So I can see the similarities. The companion talks the Dalek around in the end. It's not the Doctor, it's the companion. It's Rose in one and Evelyn in another. The Doctor is seen to be the Dalek racist, if you want. So I can see the similarities between the 2 stories. It's just always struck me as very odd. And I don't know whether I'm missing something completely obvious. Russell T Davies has said that if it wasn't for hearing Spare Parts and thinking how good it was to have a really brilliant genesis of the Cybermen story, it wouldn't have led to the line of thinking that led to Rise of the Cybermen. I still fail to see where the credit comes in. So if Mark Platt got a check for Rise of the Cybermen, good on you, lad. It's a marvellous, marvellous piece of audio drama. I absolutely love this one. We're careering towards earworms.
Yes, because I wrote no notes for this. I wrote some alumni notes. We've been through them all, basically, other than saying that Sally Nivette was Jenna in Blake 7, which isn't a surprise to anyone.
No, and she brought her dog along. Apparently that was one of the conditions she had for recording this. She was allowed to bring her lab into the lab.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, not if there's any of the other cast who are allergic to dogs, of course. But
yes, it wouldn't be for me.
Oh, and Paul Copley was Clement MacDonald in Children of Earth.
Oh, yes, I'd forgotten that.
And Sally Nivette was in Emmerdale and married to Joe Sugden.
What?
Sally Nivette, character in Emmerdale.
Oh, the character?
Yeah.
I say, how the hell have I missed that?
Her character became Mrs. Sugden So I'm assuming it's Jo Sugden she married, but I don't know Emmerdale well enough to know whether there were other Sugdens of marriable age.
God, imagine being married to Sally in a vet. Anyway, forget all that. Let's rate this in earworms.
This is the song that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends.
It's a 10 from Ken.
10.
Yeah. This is one of the best Doctor Who audios out there. We've crowed about Chimes of Midnight. There are others that we will crow about in future that are of equally high standing. There's not many of them, otherwise everything would be a 10. But no, this is bloody marvellous. One of the absolute best that Big Finish have ever done.
Yep, what he said.
And they'll continue singing it forever just because.
So it's time for Podcast of the Week.
And it's your turn this
Podcast
time.
of the Week this month is Finish Big.
Oh, marvellous.
Really? Now, I didn't know.
We've already mentioned Joe Ford.
We have already mentioned Joe Ford, and he's been terribly complimentary about us on Twitter. So as an actor...
He's not met us yet.
No, that's true. There's time, Joe, there's time.
What, time to escape?
It's time to find out how utterly awful we are in real life. Because he was so complimentary, I went out and listened to one of his podcasts, because he does a few. He does Hamster with the Blunt Penknife, which you have guessed it on.
Yes, talking about the web planet.
We'll gloss over that bit. He does do another one, which he has told me about, and I've immediately forgotten.
Well, he does The Nine One Be Praised. There's his Untitled Star Trek podcast.
That's the one I was thinking of, yes. And he also does Finish Big with his partner Mark, which is listening to every Big Finish release in order. Good grief, lads. Now, I love Big Finish stuff, but that is a...
Yeah, we'll see you next century.
Yeah, there's a lot. Because I did ask him recently, if I had to buy every Big Finish release, I would need another house. And I wouldn't be able to afford the house that I actually live in if I had to pay for all the CDs. Because there's fucking thousands of them. And he said, we do have every single Big Finish CD downstairs. I am in awe of this because...
Is that their foundations?
It must be, because after 20 years of Big Finish CDs increasing exponentially, I think they started in November 2022. They put out one a month. It's about an hour and a half long, and they go through Big Finish in batches. Certainly the Doctor Who's, they go through in batches of 5 stories at a time. And I have utterly loved. I mean, me and you at times, we're on the scathing side. These two are fucking lethal. Absolutely lethal.
I've been listening to it. I've been really enjoying it. There will get to be a point where they're no longer doing stuff that I've listened to. And at that point, sorry, Joe, I'll stop listening because there's no point in me listening to a review of something I haven't heard. But they haven't got there yet.
Oh, they're not likely to for several decades, I fancy.
No, stuff that I haven't heard.
That's what I mean.
I stopped reasonably early on.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the first 100 or so I listened to. But...
Oh, I did. I certainly did the first 200, and I've done a lot of the box sets, so...
Yeah, but you're a bit more of a fan than I am.
It's true, yes, it's true. But everything they've said so far, certainly about the Doctor Who's, it's been spot on. As a review of Doctor Who audios, and I mean, they do things in depth, which we're terribly lax at sometimes.
I loved how much they slagged off the Sirens of Time.
You see,
it's shite.
I don't think it's shite, and I'll still say this about Sirens of Time. I loved it when it first came out. I really loved Sirens of Time, and I've still got a massive soft spot for it now. All the points that they picked in it, and all the points that you've picked in it, I totally get, I totally take on board, and I think are completely valid. I still disagree.
Yeah, well, 3-1, you're wrong.
Yeah, apparently. But if it wasn't for Sirens of Time, I wouldn't have spent thousands with Big Finish over the years. And if it had been that bad, I would have stopped with that.
If I hadn't arranged to get the first years without paying for them...
A spoiler coming up, he didn't pirate them.
No. Somebody else bought them for me from America in return for me recording a truly dreadful Australian show called The Tribe. So I would record The Tribe and post it over to him. I can't remember his name. It was a long time ago. And he would send me over the Big Finishes, and we'd arranged to do that for a year. So I got the first year of Big Finishes. If it had just been the Sirens of Time, I wouldn't have bothered.
Really? Do you hate it that much?
I was bored shitless by it. It's as bad as The Grace.
Oh, The Grace is a first slog.
It's fucking awful is what The Grace is.
I'd like to do Sirens of Time at some point so we can pick it apart properly, because we would come at it from very, very different angles.
Oh, fucking hell. Yes, okay, we'll do that.
Let's stop here.
No, I've just had an idea.
Oh, God, here we go.
We'll do that, and we'll ask Joe and Mark on board.
We've never had a crossover.
We've never had
guests. We've never had guests. Oh, my. Yes, go on. We'll get in touch with the boys and see if they'll do it. But yes, that's my recommendation this month. Finish big.
Which I can wholeheartedly agree with, because it's marvellous.
So having had a thoroughly enjoyable time this month, what have you got for us next month?
Well, seeing as the feel of this was very sort of 1940s, 1950s, I thought we'd delve right back in the archive and listen to something from the 1940s.
40s, right, okay.
I think that we should listen to the 4 surviving episodes of Appointment with Fear.
Well, The Man in Black?
Valentine Dial, yes.
I didn't know any actually survived.
Yeah, 4 survived. They're brilliant. I will have a lot to say about them. They're not perfect, but they are fantastic.
I'm quietly surprised by this because, A, I didn't know it was from the 1940s. I thought it was a bit later than that, but I didn't know they survived. But Valentine Dial and his 80-a-day smoking habit.
I mean, his voice is just, it's like...
liquid.
It's like velvet. It is unbelievably gorgeous to listen to. This was before he had a crow stapled to his head.
Well, that it is then. 4 episodes of The Man in Black for next month.
Appointment with Fear.
Yeah, give it its proper title. But thanks for staying the course with us, boys and girls.
The bastardised modern re-imaging of it was called The Man in Black.
I'm not letting you go. He's off. Put your tin hat on, into the air raid shelter. Until next time, thank you so much for staying the course with us, kids. We've ranted on a bit these past few episodes, but we've had a lot to say. It's been fun. Hope you've had half as much fun as we have listening to these. We will be back next month.
Bye now.
The archive of audio antiquities featured Simon Exton and Ken Moss, and the announcer was Jenny at Blue Box 99. All featured soundtracks are the property of their respective producers, and no infringement of copyright is intended. Title music was by Edward White, and the programme was produced by Maverick Productions. For more information, please visit maverickproductionsuk.blogspot.com or find us on social media.